The sky above Karthus was always dark. Thick smoke rose from the massive war factories blocking the sun. The air smelled like metal, oil, and death. Every corner of the factory world was filled with the sound of machines and the quiet pain of slaves. Humans had lived here for nearly 150 years, not as citizens, not even as workers. They were slaves. Taken from Earth generations ago by the alien race known as the Dravari, a cruel, four-armed species that ruled many star systems. The Dravari used humans to build their war machines, giant tanks, laser cannons, and starfighters. Nobody remembered what freedom felt like. In a dark corner of Factory Zone 9, a young human boy named Kade carried heavy metal parts across the floor. He was just 16, thin, tired, covered in dust and scars. His father, Rollo, walked beside him, dragging a broken engine part with both hands. "Keep your head down," Rollo whispered. "Don't make them look at you." Kade nodded. That was the first rule of survival. Never meet a Dravari's eyes. Never speak unless spoken to. And never, ever, hope. But today was different. As they passed the repair line, one of the human workers, an old man with white hair and one blind eye, suddenly dropped his tools. He turned and stared at a passing Dravari guard. "Monsters," the old man shouted. "You stole our world. You stole our lives." Time stopped. The Dravari turned, slowly, lifting his shock staff. Without a word, he struck the old man in the chest. Electricity shot through his body. The old man screamed and then fell. Dead. Kade froze. His hands shook. His father pulled him away quickly. "Don't stop. Don't look," Rollo said. His voice was sharp but full of fear. Later that night, inside the slave barracks, Kade sat alone near the corner. The image of the old man still burned in his mind. Why did he do that? Why shout? Why die? Then under a loose floor panel, Kade found something strange. A small flat device, metal, black, cracked. It looked like old human tech. He wiped it clean and pressed the button. The screen flickered. A soft voice played from the speaker. A human voice. "To those who still live, to those still in chains, you are not forgotten. This is Commander Sela Rin of the Terran Defense Fleet. We fought, we fell, but the fire lives in you. Rise. One day. Rise." Kade's heart pounded. Was this real? A message from the past? From the old Earth military? He pressed the button again. The message repeated. And again. He looked up and whispered, "Father." "Come here." Rollo came over, wiping grease from his hands. Kade showed him the device. As the message played, Rollo's eyes went wide. He took the device, holding it close like it was gold. This is from the Resistance," he said. "From before the fall. Where did you get it?" "I found it under the floor." Rollo was silent for a long time. Then he did something Kade had never seen before. He smiled. That night, Rollo gathered a few trusted humans. They sat in the dark, listening to the message over and over. Some cried. Some stayed silent, but all of them felt the same thing: hope. For the first time in years, they spoke of rebellion. Not loudly, not foolishly, but quietly, carefully. Like planting a seed in ash. They remembered old stories, old machines, old warriors from Earth, weapons hidden long ago in forgotten tunnels, secrets buried under factories. Kade listened. He learned. A few days later, while cleaning out a storage pit, Kade found something else. A rusted metal box with faded Terran markings. Inside, blueprints, old ones, for a weapon the Dravari had long destroyed, or so they thought. Kade ran back to the barracks with the blueprints. Rollo looked at them and nodded slowly. "This changes everything," he whispered. Over the next few weeks, a hidden group began working in secret. At night, under the noise of machines, They rebuilt old tech. Small, quiet things. A laser cutter, a shield breaker, a simple grenade. Each piece was built in silence. Each part hidden under beds, behind walls, inside trash bins. They were careful, but fear always walked beside them. A single mistake would mean death for all. Then came the day a guard noticed a missing tool. He shouted, searched. His eyes landed on Kade. The alien stormed toward him, staff raised. Before he could strike, a loud noise exploded from the wall. Boom. The guard dropped, stunned. Smoke filled the room. A small, hidden device had gone off. Early. Too early. Panic spread. The slaves are Moran. Alarms blared. But as Kade looked around, something inside him changed. He didn't feel fear anymore. He felt fire. For the first time in his life, Kade didn't want to hide. He wanted to fight. The smoke hadn't cleared. The bodies hadn't cooled. And yet, someone was already whispering, "The humans have started a fire." The alarms rang all night across Factory Zone 9. Red lights flashed through the metal corridors. The Dravari stormed every building, searching every room, dragging humans out and beating them one by one. They wanted names. They wanted answers. But they got silence. Kade hid under the fuel drums, bruised but alive. He could still hear the explosion, from earlier ringing in his ears. It wasn't meant to go off, it was a mistake. A small device meant for testing had triggered early, and yet, somehow, it had worked. The Dravari were scared. Kade heard two guards talking in their clicking alien tongue just outside the fuel depot. They built something. Impossible. They're slaves. Slaves don't make bombs. Kade smiled. It was small, bloody, and tired. But it was real. Later, back in the hidden chamber beneath the factory, the others were waiting. Rollo paced nervously. 4 others stood with him, engineers, miners, even a former medic. They all looked at Kade when he entered. "You should be dead," one man said. "Maybe," Kade replied, "but so should that Dravari." They all fell quiet. Rollo handed Kade a wrapped cloth. Inside was a small chip drive, old Earth tech, barely functional. But when plugged into the broken data pad, the screen came to life. Blueprints, old, faded, dangerous. Terran disruptor cannon compact form. The humans stared at it like it was a treasure map. "If we build this," one whispered, "we can shut down their exosuits." "They'll never see it coming," said another. Rollo nodded slowly. "We build, we strike. Quietly, one by one." For the next 10 days, the rebels worked in silence, every tool stolen, every part hidden, every whisper shared only in the dead of night. They used broken machines as cover, repair lines, junk heaps, even food waste areas. Kade worked as a runner, moving parts, passing notes, carrying hope. The Dravari guards laughed at the humans more than usual. "Slow beasts," they said. "Crawl meat. No fire in your bones." They didn't know. Deep in the ash pits, the fire was already burning. Then came the test. A group of human workers were sent to the outer scrapyard, an open area watched by a single guard in a powered exosuit. The suit made him 10 times stronger, faster, and nearly untouchable. Kade was in the group. So was the weapon. They buried the disruptor cannon under old engine parts. When the guard turned his back, Kade nodded to the others. He pressed the button, a soft click. Then silence. Then chaos. The exosuit froze. Sparks shot from its back. The Dravari shouted in shock, trying to move, but his limbs locked up. The humans swarmed him. 5 seconds later, the guard was on the ground. Helmet crushed, suit shattered, eyes wide in fear. Kade stood over him. "You called us meat," he said quietly. "Now you're the one crawling." They didn't kill him. They let him crawl back. They wanted him to talk. That night, across the other factory zones, whispers spread like fire. A Dravari guard was brought down. The humans are building weapons. There's a group. They're fighting back. The Dravari command grew nervous. Patrols doubled. Shock units were deployed. Executions began. Humans were dragged out and shot without trial. But it was too late. For every human who died, 10 more opened their eyes. Kade became a symbol. Not a leader, not yet, but a spark. They called him Ashwalker because he walked out of the explosion when others fell. And deep in the black zones of Karthus, where old Earth cargo had been dumped centuries ago, a signal suddenly blinked. An emergency beacon. Silent for 100 years. Now reactivated. Far above, in the shadow of the moon, a forgotten Terran ship stirred in the dark. Its AI opened its ancient eyes. Human signal detected. Query. Earth command. Status. Unknown. Priority. Protect remaining human life. The ship powered up. Old guns hummed. Ancient engines flared, and somewhere below, Kade looked up at the sky and whispered, "Come. Find us, we're not done yet." A single human-built weapon just brought down an alien giant. And now, the galaxy is listening. The fire has started, and it's only the beginning. The air was thick with fear, not from the humans, but from the Drivari. Factory Zone 9 had gone, strangely quiet. The guards no longer walked with pride. Their exosuits stayed powered on even during rest shifts. Their eyes twitched at every sound. Every shadow looked like danger. Because it was. Deep below the main lines, the rebels worked. In secret, Kade stood over the new prototype, a more powerful disruptor device. Rollo and 2 techs checked the wires. Each one was stolen from Drivari scrap and rebuilt with human hands. "This one won't just freeze their suit," Rollo said. "It'll fry it." Kade nodded. "Good. Then we take a machine." They weren't going to just stop a guard this time. They were going to steal a war mech. Later that night, under the red lights of the armor bay, a single Drivari mech stood like a tower. It was nearly 5 meters tall, equipped with energy blades, rail cannons, and a plasma shield. Normally guarded. Heavily. But tonight, only one Drivari technician remained. The rebels waited. Kade, face covered in black dust, slipped through the maintenance shaft. He held the disruptor tightly, heart pounding. This was suicide, and yet, it felt like victory. He reached the platform above the mech and dropped the device. It landed right on the mech's back panel. Click. BZZD. The lights flickered. The mech groaned. Sparks flew. The Drivari tech screamed as the suit convulsed and its power core overloaded. Before he could call for help, Rollo's team charged in and knocked him cold. Kade jumped down, heart racing. "Is it dead?" Rollo grinned. "No, it's ours." 20 minutes later, the humans walked out of the mech bay, not as slaves, but as thieves of war. One of them was inside the mech, learning, testing, laughing. Word spread like wildfire across the barracks. "We took one of their gods," someone whispered. "We stole it with our bare hands." The humans gathered quietly in dark rooms, listening as the stolen mech powered up and down behind hidden walls. The rebels had done it. They'd broken the first piece of the chain. Kade sat near the edge of the barracks roof, watching the moons of Karthus. He didn't smile. He didn't rest. Instead, he whispered, "They'll come harder now." He was right. The next morning, Drivari dropships descended like hawks. Dozens of shock troopers flooded the factory grounds. Massive walkers patrolled the perimeter. Sirens wailed across the skies. They were hunting rebels now, and they were angry. They lined up 30 humans in the yard, accused them of rebellion, said the punishment was death. Kade was one of them. He didn't beg. He didn't shake. He looked straight at the commander and said, "You should have killed us when we were still broken." The commander raised his weapon. Boom, the ground erupted. Out of nowhere, the stolen mech burst through the wall behind them, firing rail shots into the alien formation. Rebels charged from every corner, throwing flash charges and fire bombs. A full battle erupted in seconds. Kade rolled away and grabbed a pulse rifle from a fallen Drivari. He didn't run. He stood and fought back. By the time the smoke cleared, 3 alien walkers had fallen. 12 guards were dead. Dozens more were wounded. The humans had taken the yard. The Dravari ran, not out of strategy, out of fear. That night, above Karthus, the forgotten Terran ship in orbit received the full distress data. It didn't wait. It moved. Its old reactor glowed blue as ancient engines flared to life. Human resistance confirmed. Engaging protector protocol. Deploying drop pod. A single pod launched from the ship. Silent, sleek, old, but deadly. It shot through the atmosphere like a falling star. Kade looked up as the sky caught fire. "What is that?" someone whispered. Kade didn't answer. He already knew. "That is the first flame." The sky burned. Something ancient had fallen, and with it came the ghosts of a war the galaxy tried to forget. But humans never forget. The pod hit the ground like thunder. It smashed into the far edge of Factory Zone 9, blowing a crater into the hardened dirt. Ash and sparks rained down. Even the Dravari patrols froze when they heard it. No one had ever seen a pod like that. Not even the oldest slave remembered anything so powerful. Kade ran toward the impact zone with a small group of rebels. He wasn't sure what they would find. A weapon, a trap, but what they found inside changed everything. It was a Terran battle pod, over 300 years old, worn, rusted, but still humming with power. The hatch opened slowly. Inside was a black crate, sealed with Earth's old military crest, a silver eagle gripping fire. Rollo opened it carefully. Inside were weapons. Terran weapons, pulse rifles, armor vests, a portable command tablet, and a voice log. Kade powered it up. "This is Captain Mara Vex of the Terran Vanguard. If you're hearing this, then humanity still breathes. These weapons were meant for the last stand. But maybe they'll help you rise instead. For Earth. For us all." The room went silent. Even the air seemed to listen. Then Rollo whispered, "We're not just fighting for freedom anymore." Kade nodded. "We're fighting for what they lost." That same night, deep in the Dravari command station on Karthus, alarms blared again. Unknown drop detected. Human tech signatures confirmed. Terran artifacts, active. The commander slammed his claws on the table. "I want the sector locked down. Kill anything that breathes human air." They were too late. The rebels struck again the next morning. This time they weren't hiding. They wore the Terran vests. They carried pulse rifles. They looked the Dravari in the eye and fired. A full skirmish broke out near the main power station. One human with a heavy repeater gun held the line for 6 minutes alone. Another disabled an enemy walker with an old EMP dart from the crate. Kade moved like fire, fast, direct, unshaken. He wasn't just surviving anymore. He was leading. By nightfall, 3 zones had fallen to the rebels. Over 200 humans joined the era. Fight. More whispered of secret rooms, hidden blueprints, even lost Earth drones buried beneath the factories. But the most important thing was what happened next. The Terran battleship in orbit, still mostly silent, sent a signal directly to Kade's location. The tablet buzzed. A message flashed on screen. Command link established. New objective, survival of human species. And then the voice returned. "Kade, we see you. We are with you. Upload coordinates for next strike." Kade looked up. For the first time in his life, he felt it. Not hope, power. The next strike was brutal. A supply train loaded with mech fuel and parts was headed for the northern Dravari base. The humans had never touched a train route before. Too fast, too secure. But now, with Terran guidance, they had a plan. The rebels set a trap in the canyon pass, with pulse mines, with fire lines, with grit. When the train passed through, the cliffs exploded. The lead car derailed. Kade's team boarded the rest. In under 5 minutes, the train was theirs, and the Dravari were speechless. 1 week later, whispers moved beyond Karthus. Across other Dravari slave worlds, messages began to appear on broken consoles, on hidden screens, on stolen radios. Carthys burns. The humans fight back. The Terran flame has returned. A war that was buried under centuries of silence had awakened again. Meanwhile, in the black of space, far beyond Dravari reach, ancient Earth satellites picked up the same signal from Carthys, a message pulsing again and again. Resistance detected. Terran blood active. Awaiting response. And far, far away, something began to move. Old Earth wasn't as dead as the galaxy believed. One factory burned, then a supply train. Now the stars were whispering. The humans have returned. And for the first time in 300 years, the uprising had begun. Smoke curled above Factory Zone 9. The Dravari patrols had vanished. The streets were empty, except for the humans. Kade stood on top of a shattered mech, holding the Terran tablet. Behind him, hundreds of workers, once slaves, watched in silence. Many still carried chains on their wrists. Others held makeshift weapons. A few wore the recovered Earth vests like armor. He raised his voice. "We were born in chains, but we'll die as soldiers if we must. No more silence, no more hiding. Today we take back what they stole." The crowd didn't cheer. Not yet. They were too used to pain, but they were listening, and that was enough. Across Carthys, rebel teams moved with purpose. Every strike now had Terran strategy behind it. The old AI ship, orbiting like a ghost, fed them maps, patrol routes, weaknesses. They called it Echo 1. It called them Terran Ground Corps. And, together, they made the planet bleed. One night later, an entire Dravari barracks was found burning. No alarms, no survivors. Just a human symbol scratched into the wall. "We remember Earth." The Dravari High Council received the news. "They've unified," said the war chief. "How?" "They are using old Terran war code. And they have a ship." "Then we burn the planet. Wipe it clean." But the humans were already ahead. In Zone 11, the humans attacked an orbital lift tower, the structure that connected the surface to the Dravari command ship above. It was the most guarded site on Carthys. Kade's squad, callsign Ash Squad, used stolen access codes, disguises, and chaos. They moved like shadows through the lower decks. Rebels planted charges. Others freed prisoners locked in steel crates. A 9-year-old boy, still wearing a slave collar, handed Kade a bolt cutter with steady hands. "You'll need this for the top gate," the boy said. Kade knelt. "What's your name?" "Darrow." "You're one of us now, Darrow, and one day they'll fear your name." By dawn, the lift tower exploded. Half the command ship's bridge was destroyed in the blast. Fire rained down like stars. The Dravari leader above screamed in fury. "They are beneath us!" "No," whispered a scared officer. "They're rising." Meanwhile, the Echo 1 ship received a message from an ancient deep space relay, something that hadn't pinged in centuries. The screen flashed. Terra Core node detected. Legacy battle group alerted. Response en route. Kade didn't know what that meant yet. But Echo 1's voice was clearer now. Less robotic. More human. "Hold the planet. Help is coming." Down below, the humans struck again. This time they targeted the mech factory itself, the birthplace of Dravari war machines. The plan was madness, no one had ever breached it, but that's what made it perfect. Ash Squad moved in first. Using stolen passcodes, camo suits, and blueprints, they slipped through the old maintenance tunnels, left behind by the first human builders a century ago. Inside, the factory roared with machinery and lava-like coolant flows. The noise covered their movements. Kade's team planted disruptor mines on the assembly lines. At the same time, Rollo's team hijacked the power grid. The countdown began. 60 seconds, whispered Kade. "Let them see us," said Rollo. "Let them watch it all burn." The factory core exploded from the inside. Flames lit the skies. Steel melted. Dozens of mechs collapsed in mid-construction. Hundreds of human slaves ran from their chains and joined the fight, armed with whatever they could grab. From above, Echo 1 broadcasted the attack to nearby systems. The galaxy was watching now, and far, far away, across the dark space between stars. Earth stirred. Not the Earth the galaxy remembered. Something older, stronger, sleeping no more. The Dravari once called Earth a broken world. Now they watched, helpless, as its children burned their empire. Planet by planet, fire by fire. The stars over Carthus turned red. Flames still rose from the broken mech factories. Rebel banners hung over the lift tower ruins. And in orbit above, the Terran AI warship, Echo 1, ran its final phase. Uplink complete. Tactical override engaged. Scanning galactic network. Targets confirmed. Dravari systems compromised. Down below, Kade stood inside the captured control room, staring at a wide holomap. Red dots covered it. Dravari slave worlds, supply, stations, and command fleets. Beside him, Rollo leaned forward. "We can hit them all." "No," said Kade. "We will hit them all." The first target, Zavar Prime, a factory planet twice the size of Carthus, and the Dravari's main mech supply hub. Over 80,000 human slaves worked there under constant surveillance. Echo 1 fired a stealth pod into its orbit. Inside, weapons, armor, and something new. A beacon. When the human rebels on Zavar activated it, every Terran warship in hiding received the signal. Within hours, 6 ancient Terran drone ships, long buried in asteroid belts, ignited. They were rusted, silent, deadly. With no warning, they entered Zavar's orbit and rained plasma on the Dravari strongholds. The guards didn't even have time to scream. Inside the factories, human slaves saw the sky burn and stood still for a moment. Then they picked up their tools and turned them into weapons. At the same time, Kade led a fleet of newly repaired shuttles from Carthus, small, fast, dangerous. These weren't warships. They were fire starters. On the outer rim world of Torvac 7, Kade's team dropped in and ignited their main fuel processors. When the flames reached the sky, a captured Dravari commander was thrown before the camera drone. Kade looked into the lens and said, "This is for every scream you ignored, for every name you forgot, for Earth." He didn't shoot the commander. He handed the weapon to a freed human child. The broadcast went viral. Across 10 systems, human slaves began whispering 2 words. "It's time." The Dravari High Council went into full panic. Meetings turned into arguments. Arguments turned into screaming. They were broken. They were forgotten. How did they come back? One officer said quietly, "We never broke them. We just made them angry." On the 3rd week of the uprising, Echo 1 dropped a surprise. Not a weapon, not a fleet, but a voice message, found deep in its ancient memory core. It was recorded during the final battle of Old Earth. It played across all rebel ships, all human channels, and was hijacked into Dravari news waves. To the stars that tried to erase us, to the empires that fed on our blood, we are not dead. We are the fire, and we are coming. Meanwhile, on a dark Dravari archive world, an alien historian ran through data records in fear. He found something. Old reports marked classified, do not transmit. He clicked play. The footage showed an ancient Terran fleet burning through stars, defeating armadas 3 times its size. At the end of the file, 1 word, redacted, humanity. He leaned back, whispering, "They never died. They just waited." Back. On Carthus, Kade stood at the command deck of the rebuilt shuttle Ashfire. He stared at the new map. Only 1 red dot remained. Dravari Prime, the capital world, their home, their heart. "It's time," he said. Rollo smiled. "Let's finish what they started 300 years ago." Above them, Echo 1's AI pulsed one last command. Operation Last Flame approved. The galaxy once called humans a broken species. The Dravari called them tools, meat, slaves. Now they call them something else. The end. The stars around Dravari Prime, the capital world, were quiet. No traffic, no trade, no light. Because humans were coming, and the galaxy held its breath. Kade stood aboard the bridge of the Ashfire, now leading a fleet of 30 stolen and rebuilt warships, backed by Echo 1, the Terran AI ship that had awakened Earth's legacy. The message had already gone out. To all humans still breathing, you are not alone. This is the final strike. For our chains, for our dead, for Earth. Behind him stood Rollo, Darrow, and hundreds of rebels from 5 different worlds. No one wore chains anymore. They wore armor, scratched, mismatched, but human. "What's our plan?" Rollo asked. Kade replied, steady and cold. "We hit their communication towers. We shut down their orbital guns, then we land, and we show them what Earth remembers." The battle began at midnight. Echo 1 jammed the Dravari signals and sent ghost data into their networks. Fake orders, false retreat commands, corrupted visuals. The enemy was blind. Then the first human strike ship flew through the clouds. A stolen Dravari destroyer painted with Earth's forgotten crest. It fired one shot, straight into the palace tower. Boom. Glass, fire, and stone rained from the sky. The humans had arrived. Kade's team dropped into the capital city. Every street was chaos. Dravari soldiers running, civilians fleeing, command centers failing. But this time, no one was saving them, because this was the reckoning. Rollo led the charge at the central mech hub. He planted explosives inside their latest war machine prototypes and walked away as they blew sky high. Darrow, now only 10 years old, disabled an enemy drone squad by hacking into their visual feed and playing an Earth anthem on loop. Everywhere, the Dravari looked. They saw fire, and the faces of the people they once enslaved. At the center of the capital, Kade entered the Grand Hall. The Dravari High Warlord stood waiting, flanked by 2 royal guards in massive armored suits. "You were tools," the Warlord hissed. "You were animals. Now you think you are kings?" Kade raised the Terran pulse rifle and stepped forward. "No," he said quietly. "We're not kings. We're what comes after the kings." The final fight was brutal. 2 guards attacked, one swinging a plasma axe, the other firing heavy bolts. Kade dodged, rolled, shot twice, one down. Rollo arrived just in time to take the second one out with a grenade toss. The Warlord roared and charged with a blade. Kade didn't flinch. He sidestepped, drove the edge of his weapon into the alien's gut and whispered, "This is for my father." Then pulled the trigger. The Warlord dropped. Dead. Outside, the human fleet broadcast one final message to the galaxy. "We were slaves. You chained us. You forgot us. But we remembered. And now, you will too." Dravari Prime fell. All remaining Dravari forces surrendered within 72 hours. The galaxy watched in silence as the once mighty empire knelt before a species it thought it had erased. Weeks later, Kade stood on a rebuilt balcony overlooking the burned skyline. The chains of 1,000 slaves hung from the walls, not as tools, but as reminders. He pressed a button on the tablet. The screen lit up. Terran Rebirth Program, Phase 1 activated. Status Earth, signal detected, reactivation possible. Rollo stood beside him. "Do you think they'll answer?" "They don't need to," Kade said. "We've already answered for them." Then he turned to the crowd of gathered humans, young, old, scarred, proud. "We are not slaves," he said. "We are the storm. And this galaxy belongs to no one unless we say so."